Welcome back to a midweek episode of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. For those of you who are new to these midweek episodes, which I don't know who that would be anymore, but if you're new to the podcast, the midweek episodes are really just about connecting with me, me sharing a little bit more about what we're doing, projects I'm working on, my mindset, things I think about, and just general thoughts about real estate and what have you. So I missed last week. I've been insanely busy. So high level recap for those of you who are maybe not totally familiar with what I'm up to. So I've got my Florida stuff and we've got our Tobermory hospitality stuff here in Ontario. So in Florida, Matt Piche and I rolled out an off-market acquisition business. I've been doing stuff in the US actually since all the way back in 2012. But sort of redeployed in Florida for as far as US goes in 2021, building out single family houses on a bunch of lots that I acquired. Long story short, everything got squeezed and was not really profitable to the point I would need it to be to continue. So I decided to move on. And what really occurred to me and was very clear to me is that the only for sure way to win is to buy at cents on the dollar, whether that's 70 cents, 60 cents, whatever, but to win on the buy. That's undebatably good. Getting a deal on the acquisition is undebatably good as an investor. So of course you can go the normal route and use a realtor, and that's good. Like that works for most people. But for me, I'm very active. Like I'm an active investor. So there's no active strategy to me at this point without making it on the buy. Aside from extreme forced value add, right? Extreme forced value add, sort of like what we've done on our camp, which I'm about to get to, that works too. But that takes a lot more skill than it ever did before because the market won't forgive you. Real estate values, I'm not relying on them going up. Never should have, never really did personally, but I know a lot of people did, and it did save people. And it did save me at least once for sure. A couple times it was really helpful. And I know there's others out there that have probably saved them dozens of times. So that's not where you want to be. That's not investing. That's sort of gambling. And of course, the idea is like, if we look at this as a 50-year horizon, it's hard to imagine how real estate values aren't up. Even 20 years, 10 years, I certainly think there's an argument that potentially values could be down. It's possible. I don't know, but I want to make on the buy. I want amortizations on my mortgages to create equity for me because I'm not banking on appreciation. So that's my longer spiel, but that's why I got into off-market acquisition. So Matt and I, kids the same age, he found Naples, Florida after I did. I suggested, he was looking for a place in Florida. I'm like, check out Naples. It's great. He ended up loving it, bought a place. We ended up spending some time together, we're kids playing, going to the beach, sunsets, all that stuff. And we just got to talking about what I was doing in Florida, and I had already rolled out the off-market acquisitions. So Matt jumped in. He was good with it. We just put our heads together, and it's been a really cool partnership. Well, we've got 20 plus deals tied up right now conditionally. So some of them are in closing process. Like we've got one we're racing to close next week. We have others where the sellers have just given us permission to market their properties. So these are deals where we couldn't quite get them down to the price point we needed. Like we're going for 50 cents on the dollar with land. And if we couldn't get them to 50 cents on the dollar, we pitched them on a double close. And double close basically just means, in our setup, they're giving us, say, 6 months or 4 months to market the property. They're giving us permission. We agree on a number we're going to get them, and then we agree to take care of everything else. So if anything needs to be done, if a survey needs to be done, studies, clearing, improvements, we take care of all that. I mean, in reality, that's rarely ever needed, but if it was, we would. And you'd be surprised at how many people are just good with it. They're out of state or they're not in the area. They don't know any realtors. Like real estate doesn't come, second nature to them like it does with me and Matt and our team, of course. So because we're connected and we just say, hey, we'll take care of it, we actually are getting yeses. They really just want to know, okay, so I'm getting my number. But if we've done our research and we think there's a little bit of meat on the bone, if we can make sense of it, we will go ahead and list the property. Like one, we're just doing a little baby one. We got it for 80,000 and we're listing it for 100, and we might make 8, 9, 10 grand. Like that's as small as we'd ever go. We've got another one that we've got for 100 and we're going to list it for like 175. We've got a couple more like that. And then, if we could have got that deal for 100 and it was worth 200, then we would have just closed it. But what I like about the double close is we're we're not taking the risk. Like the last thing I want, I said this to our team when we were talking to them, I don't want to be owning properties that like, I don't want to like hold on to a piece of land in, this town in Florida. Like I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in, of course, I'll bank some farmland, like that is in my plans, and like ag land that could have houses on it. I want that. But generally speaking, there's a lot of stuff that we come across where I don't want to hold that long term. It's just a flip to me. So if I can avoid closing on it, now I'm not raising funds except for the day of closing, which we have some creative workarounds on. And obviously we can close with our own cash too. But for one day, so double close basically means we close on the property and then the same day we sell it to the new buyer. So we just eliminate that risk. So that's the key thing that I really like about that whole double close strategy. And I mean, I'd like to do all my deals that way, quite frankly. It just eliminates a huge portion of the risk. Of course, time will tell just some of the hiccups we run into. Of course, we've got full disclosure with our sellers, but when some of them see what we list the property for, maybe they get a little angry. I don't know. They do know we're going to list. We've told them it's specifically in the offer that they give us permission to list it, show it, do all that. I think most of them probably just won't even ever look into it. But of course, the odd one, they might say, dang, I should have just done that. We'll deal with that. But yeah, I'm really big on like just full disclosure. And but again, 20 plus deals, like it's crazy. And we've got so many leads that we're hiring more acquisitions managers. We've brought on some people, but just the capacity of certain people who we've brought on is just not quite there yet. And our leads are coming in faster than we can call them. We're at about a $15,000 every 28 days spend right now, US. So it's not a small operation. But that's what makes it fun. We're listing 3 different properties this week. We've got another one closing next week for sure, and there could be more. You never know. So just constantly, it's one thing after another of us just getting better and better, finding more systems, more people to work with, ironing out details. Like it's a full out startup. And Matt and I are wearing like so many different hats. Really looking forward to seeing what we can do in like a year from now, when we're way further established, way more systems, way more contacts, and just how much smoother it will be. But yeah, really exciting for right now. And for me, I just knew I needed to make a big change. Looking at what happened in the market, looking at how I used to rely on income from a number of different sources, including my construction business, which I've just shut down basically here in Ontario. I do some coaching, so that's part of the income, sponsors on the podcast, and then other things I do. But I wanted to turn a big piece of that income like active, completely independent, and not in Canada, like not dependent on any other person. And I really like the idea of a business where we can just scale it as big as we want. And we can go other states. I don't think that's necessary, but this allows us to build portfolios, bring in investors, and then also just flip properties for profit. So it kind of ticks all those boxes. So most of our lists are land, but we are also negotiating with canceled listings now. We did pre-foreclosures for a while, which are people who the bank is about to foreclose on their house. But what we find with them is a lot of them just bury their head in the sand, and they can be very hard to get a hold of, especially because everybody's lighting up their phones. Like they go onto a list and then everybody calls them, mails them, probably emails them. And it gets to the point with these pre-foreclosure leads that they're getting so many calls, they just turn their phone's ringer off. Well, for me, I thought it'd probably be better if we went after leads where we get more time on the phone with them. And yeah, they might not be as motivated, but what I find with the pre-foreclosures anyway is they're in denial. Like they deny the facts. They're on ostrich with the head in the sand. So I'm not denying that there's a way to close them. There of course is. And we actually have one really good lead. I don't even want to jinx it or talk about it. I'm not going to get into the details, but it's exceptionally good at face value as an assignment. And, I never count chickens before they hatch. So hope that closes, but all the same, just going to keep driving forward. And really exciting stuff. So on to chapter 2 of the discussion for today is, and there's a part 3 too, talking about the book. But so for part 2 is the camp. So we've been working with, about 2 months ago, we hired a group of consultants to help us structure an equity offering on our camp, because we know how much we can grow. Like we've seen the potential in our glamping business, which is we're right now a handful of trailers. I think we're at like 8 or 9 trailers. We have 26 listings in total active right now, about to bring on 3 more. And then we're planning on adding another 30 over the next year. And the only way we were going to do that is with an equity raise. And the reason to do that is we wanted to grow this thing into the behemoth we thought it could be. So we've grown really well to this point, and we've watched our sales at this point right now. I believe what I heard from my business partner is that we're about double the amount of sales we had at this point in the season last year. So this brings me into the part I wanted to talk about is today's economy, regardless of the interest rates, regardless of all that stuff, who will be successful? And this is a testament that it does not matter what the market is doing if you decide that you're not a victim of the market. And what I mean by that is if you decide that no matter what happens, you own it, and where you are is because of you, regardless of what the market conditions are, the empowering part of that is that you can actually change something. And for us, you would think going in, hospitality, when there's that looming idea of recession in Canada, still not confirmed, wouldn't be a good idea. High interest rate environment. But what if there's a how to make that a good idea? And for us, the how is getting the word out there. Of course, our positioning is like we're extremely affordable. So there's actually things that cater well. If people aren't going to travel international, now they want to come visit, like travel locally, we can actually benefit in a recession. So it's about the how can I steer the ship to benefit in the current climate? And the only way that works is if you are never a victim. Like you're never a victim of circumstance. And one of the hardest things of watching the fallout for me with this whole situation that's happened in the last 2 years, we all know that there's certain investors that have just shit the bed, for lack of a better way of saying it. And then there's people who've invested with them and they're upset, and I totally get it. And there's, I don't wish anybody to lose money. I can never want that. But the problem is when people go online and just complain, or, they say, oh, this happened to me. What you're doing to yourself is you're putting yourself in somebody else's mercy. Like now somebody else dictates your level of success. Believe me when I say that is the most disempowering and useless state of mind you could possibly be in, and it's only going to hurt you. Don't ever allow yourself to think that way. Of course, we all have moments of weakness, but if you get burned, and I've been burned, and how many other people have been burned, accept that you did things to get you to where you're at, and those things allowed you to be burned. So at the end of the day, if you really want to boil it down to who's, you could establish fault, but I mean, ultimately I would say it's my fault. Everything in my life is my fault. Start with that. That's my belief. But the beautiful thing is, and even more importantly than that, is my responsibility. So regardless of fault, what if fault doesn't matter? It is my responsibility. So I just want to point that out for people in Canada who are investing in Canada and are seeing that it is more challenging now than it used to be. Like, you can absolutely crush. This can be your moment. This can be bigger and better, like the best you've ever seen, by changing things, by deciding that it's your responsibility. What you've done either A, does work, keep doing it, double down, or doesn't work, change something. It's so incredibly simple. And I know I've gone on a bit of a tangent from what we started with, talking about the camp and of course the Florida stuff. Is like, I looked at it and I see everything getting so much more expensive. And I decided, because I used to be like very comfortable, I had a steady income with the projects I was doing. I never really pushed to grow too much. My portfolio was very steady growing in terms of value. I never really felt the need to go push too much. And my son and my like lifestyle, obviously, like there's a bit of lifestyle creep there. We've moved to a bigger property because we have, we needed more space, or we felt like we did. And started to look at expenses between that and inflation and higher interest rates. And I just looked at it and I'm like, okay, regular growth and regular responses won't work. I'm going to have to be unreasonable in my response to this. And that, to me, that's really what I've been doing in Florida. And of course, what we're doing with the camp is, okay, let's double down on this. Like, this stuff works. The old me would have done X. I'm going to double down on this. And one of the great examples I can give of that is our lead flow, for instance. Like with me and Matt, I look at how much we're spending, how many leads are coming in. And if I see leads not getting called, I'm like, Matt, should we renew this caller? We have a lot of leads sitting here. And Matt's constantly the voice of, let's keep the pedal down. I'd rather have too many leads than not enough. And boy, has he been right. Because, I see other people who they pull back. They don't keep filling the top of the funnel. Like they get a handful of leads coming in, they're working them. And because they're working the leads, they don't have as much time to deal with the new leads. And at the end of the day, some of them don't get called. And we still got those inefficiencies in our operation, which is why we're bringing in more acquisitions managers. But and you can hit up Matt, just go to his profile. He was posting stories about that last couple of days. So feel free to reach out to him. He kind of handles that side of the hiring. You can also send me a message and I'll share it with him. But if you are interested in working for us as an acquisitions manager, we want people with sales experience, preferably realtors. Anyways, not to digress. So like I said, the point I was making is that you sometimes have to double down on what's working. And if you believe in something, go for it. And then the other thing I would say is go find an expert and work with an expert so that your belief level can rise. If your belief level isn't there, then you need to work with somebody who allows you to believe. And for me, like not having the off-market acquisition experience, after spending over $10,000 in mailers and such, I was getting a little spooked. But then I talked to Matt, he's like, well, I had a month where I did $30,000 and we didn't get anything. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm okay. That was a huge level of confidence. So it's nice to be able to kind of have somebody who's done that, been there, and then combine our business acumen and our real estate acumen and just go out and crush. So that's been cool. And again, not being victim, like not saying, hey, I spent like $13,000 and got like $3,000 back, and that's like $10,000 US just gone on marketing. And as of right now, we're about $50,000 into the off-market acquisition, and nothing is closed yet. But we can definitely see the writing on the wall as to, it's like you hit this point of critical mass where something's got to give. And with 20 plus deals under contract and a lot of them looking pretty good, it looks like we finally hit that. And it's actually getting really exciting. So it's really fun. All right. So that's sort of wrapping in the who will be successful in today's climate. And it will never be a victim. So to put a bow on that thought and, tie it into what I've been doing. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, not at all. I just like to share my journey. I, like so many people, have found the last couple of years hard, but I was fortunate enough to sell a lot of my Ontario portfolio, get some pretty large tax bills from CRA, and but at the same time, it allowed me an opportunity to do some builds in Florida and to make some connections, to get the ball rolling, and ultimately that all led me to this point, which I have the opportunity to make the most of that. So. Anyways, I encourage anyone checking this out and sort of following our journey. Follow Matt too, because he shares a lot of hilarious stuff. He's way louder than I am, and probably makes me laugh on a daily basis with the stories he shares about this stuff. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there's a lot of fun to it, and it's great. It's a great feeling, just closing deals, crushing deals, and making stuff work. So it's definitely fun for right now. Okay, so now the next piece is, this is the other reason I was so busy, and if you've been following me on Instagram, you'll know I haven't posted as many like created reels, purpose-built reels, just kind of talking about stuff. Couple of reasons. One, like I don't know what you guys want to hear about, so if you have suggestions for that, tell me. Like what are the kind of things you'd like to see me post short form content on? Like 1 minute reels, 30-second reels. I've done a few. Like I had one do like 1.4 million views, which was just talking about how the cops said just leave your key fobs near the door. But some other ones that have done well is like little case studies of Airbnb success, arbitrage success, how you can generate significant returns in Ontario still. So I've had some reels that have really taken off. But if you have stuff that you think would work really well, or you'd like to hear about, or you'd love to see me put some concise content together around, just let me know. Fire me a message on Instagram, fire me an email, Andrew at andrew-hines.com. Any of that works. Would love the feedback. One of the big things with recent times is there's not nearly as much feedback because there's still a lot of serious real estate investors in the game, but all the ones that were only semi-serious or interested but not serious, they're gone. So it's a little quieter. But as I said back when the meetups were happening, the people I was talking to were actually more serious. Like they were more sophisticated than the average from like 3 years ago when we did meetups, like, or back 2019 when we did meetups. Back when everybody was making money and it was very easy to just get in. When it got harder, a lot of the sort of interested people just disappeared. Okay, so final thing is the audiobook. Yes, very busy with that. So the paperback and the Kindle version, they launched on, I think it was May 27th and May 31st, respectively, or May 30th. I could be getting that day wrong. And both went #1 bestseller in all 3 categories they were both in, which was huge. And I already thanked you. And I thank you again for everyone who bought a copy and helped us get to that point. But I acknowledge the reality that the vast majority of consumption of the book will be Audible. And it's not ready yet, but please stay tuned. It is going to be ready. The big difference between a book and the podcast is a book is organized and there's sequential delivery of knowledge, which you don't get with the podcast. I mean, you do if you go back to the early episodes, but it's not spoon-fed and condensed the way it is in a book. And this won't be my last book, but last one for a little bit anyway. It's been good. John Schwenker's involvement in helping me write it was absolutely huge. And it's something that I'm really, really glad I did because, experienced real estate investor with his own perspective and what we were both able to do there. It was really fun. It was a long process, and I highly encourage you to check it out because I think that the quality is really there. Whereas so many people just want to write a book for the sake of writing a book. Of course, we wanted to have a book in our name, but I really love that it's a great book. I think it's a good book, and I think you'll think that too. We've got about 20 different investors that we profiled in the book. So we sort of borrowed inspiration from Tools of the Titans by Tim Ferriss and called it Real Estate Titans. And it was the same idea. So there's concept knowledge at the beginning, and then there's a buffet of different strategies that people are doing in their opinions, and you can kind of pick what works, which is a unique concept for Canadian real estate investing and real estate investing books in general. So I think that that was a pretty cool thing that John had come up with, and I'm glad that we were able to work together to put that out. So Audible version is coming. Based on how things are going, I'd say we're still about 60 days out on that. I'm hitting my stride. We've recorded chapters 1 through 5. We're still in the editing process on chapters 3 and onward. And but we'll start cranking it out. Probably start getting a couple chapters a week, 2 to 3. Now that I have my assistant sort of helping with the back end process of editing, we're probably 2-3 chapters a week, and we will get it out there. So please stay tuned. And thanks in advance to everybody who's going to buy that and who is planning on buying a copy of the book, and everyone who already did support. Hopefully you're enjoying these midweek episodes. Again, feedback is greatly appreciated. Tell me what you want to know about. Tell me what you want to hear about. If there's a topic you want me to deep dive on, let me know that. Ideally, if it's real estate related or business related, I could be a little bit more flexible on these midweek episodes because it's just me. It's not an interview. That's what the weekend episodes are for. One more announcement is REI Hot Seat. So I have another show, which many of you are aware of, REI Hot Seat on YouTube, and it is now also on Spotify. And we've got the application in to get it onto Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. So you will now be able to watch or listen to those episodes. You can actually watch them on Spotify, but you'll be able to listen to those episodes too. Of course, it is YouTube intent or video intent, meaning that some of these episodes, like we're sharing spreadsheets, so you'll probably want to watch on YouTube, but there are also a handful of episodes now that are just, they're just a discussion. So they work really well for podcast or shorter form podcast content. So for those of you who can't find the time to necessarily sit down on YouTube, you'll have that option there too. All right. So thank you very, very much for tuning in. And I hope you find some of these ideas helpful as I share about this stuff. If there's more you want to know about what I'm working on and how I do it, or what have you, by all means, let me know. You can leave comments in the YouTube section or reach out to me any of the ways I've mentioned. and show the channel some love if you're on YouTube. And if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, just to get the word out there, get this podcast to continue growing. Because, like I said, been a tough couple of years, full transparency, but I do love that we still have a very loyal base of listeners here, and look forward to connecting with more of you very soon.